I read about this a little bit, love stories from different stages of life, and I'm gonna rate them individually. For the first one, I didn't expect them to mention the title right in the beginning. Even that was already deep. 5 centimeters per second has such a nice ring to it, and it's very vague and interesting. And it was already explained in the beginning, which is great because I had no clue what was it about, but it's such a nice line and title. So the main voice actors of the girl and guy were really good. Basically just ASMR again. You can feel the emotion in their voice, and it's very calming and carries a lot of meaning. It's very innocent love, it's so sweet. But when they got teased, it made me wonder, why is it always such a big deal if you like someone? Cause that's the point of evolution, right? Eventually, most of us will get married and have children to continue our species. But why does everyone make it a big deal? Like somehow it's wrong, or you should be ashamed, or try and hide it. That was a really interesting thought. Love is our evolution. People sing about love songs all the time. But when you actually like or love someone, it's somehow wrong. But it only feels like that in the childhood and middle school era. I'm sure grown-ups don't really act like that. So you can't help but feel bad for him when the train got delayed or when a note got lost. When they kissed and the faces were gone, it was also a good artistic decision. For this one, it feels like they're purposely trying to make you cry, and it works. They all just speak very vaguely, and it's just like poems. So this one is a 9 out of 10. So here's the second story. When the second one came along, I was assuming maybe they're like 16. But then later I realized, oh yeah, the first one they were only 13. So a 3-year gap is not really that long. But then later I saw, oh, they're driving and they're in college, then yeah, it's much later. At first, this seems like it doesn't relate to the first one at all. But then like sometime later, she mentioned about when he transferred and about the email sending. Then only when that happened, I was convinced, okay, it's connected. It'll be weird if they told 3 different stories. But you know, for Japan animes, anything can happen. But if that really happened, I'm sure they'll still be able to connect all of it. So this one had more time to develop the story more, because the first one was already very intense with a lot of emotion. At first I was like, in the beginning. And of course when she wanted to confess, it was more entertaining. And it also throws in a nice 5-meter reference, which is cool. And there's also a good quote about not knowing what to do in life, but that's okay. And also another good artistic choice when she was crying, then silence, then a rocket comes. This movie has a lot of subtle, great things like this that are very smart. At first I was doubting this second story, but I really didn't expect that ending. It was also deep, like how she described him like the rocket. The ending was also sad. Because of the story development in the beginning, this felt longer. Even though it's more or less the same time, 20 minutes. The beginning of this story was just average every day. Not in the first one where they're always talking like in poetry. So at least this one was not like overcrowding with emotions. They saved that for the ending and it was very effective. But that ending made up for it. At first I was thinking maybe 7 or 8, but now it's a 9 out of 10. So here's the third story. So we're back to the first girl, and we can see the guy's life is falling apart. Stuck at a dead-end job, his house is a mess. Which is a contrast to that second girl who thought he knew everything. And I guess that office girl that we never meet is his current partner, that he's been with for 3 years that he doesn't find fulfilling. When the first girl found her old letter and they start sharing the same dialogue, that was very touching. At the ending of the first story, they showed her holding that letter. And I just assumed they just left that as a cliffhanger to let us wonder. So it was great that they brought it back for the final story. Then it suddenly ended abruptly. For some reason, I kept on watching. I didn't even know a montage was gonna happen. Because I feel like nothing's really explained yet, there are still words unsaid. Then sure enough, there was a montage. And then that song kicked in. And that montage hit me right in the feels. Without any fancy word poetry, it's just short glimpses of everything that happened, and it managed to say a lot more by saying nothing. 2 seconds of that song playing and it already hit me right in the feels. The melody, tone, sound, feel of that song just perfectly describes their situation. The longing, distance, something missing, hoping to see you again, that kind of feeling. I could instantly feel the emotions of the song and I instantly fell in love with it. I might not know exactly every single detail of what happened in the montage, but it got me right in the feels, and that's what matters. But is it safe to say that they're unfaithful with their current relationship if they keep thinking about each other? Isn't that girl going to get married? But anyway, at the end she didn't wait at the train, so she's good. But the guy on the other hand was in a relationship where he felt unsatisfied. So I guess he's also justified to do that? Is it they really still love each other from 13 until now? Or is it just a random thought? No clue, but whatever. It was just a random dream of the past she had that made her sad. It hits hard when they show both of their lives side by side. By pure emotion, that ending, the montage and the song, makes this a 10 out of 10. If they just ended abruptly like that without this montage, then the score would be lower. But I did not expect this at all. I thought it will be just another end on a vague quote ending. So that's why people were happy in Your Name when they finally did meet at the end. People say the director doesn't really give those happy endings. So overall, despite being 1 hour, it has a lot of emotion and it went by in a breeze. Sometimes I feel like they're doing it just for the sake of it by talking in poems. If all the way through they talk like that, it feels like they're trying too hard. I feel like if they talk normally like normal people and then once in a while talk in poems, then it will be more effective. So now I can see why the second one, in the beginning, it was more average, it was a breather. Like I can't imagine 13-year-olds talking like that, you know? The first story was like year 2 to 3, the second one was slow pace, and the last one just went all out for the ending. But it constantly made me feel something. This movie also has a good length to be replayed. It's easy to digest and it's very relatable. It has very soft and innocent fade-outs to change scenes, not violent jump cuts that come out of nowhere, and also has callbacks and references to the previous stories. It makes you feel even more because it's familiar. But there are some parts I also don't really understand because I think they jump between the past, present, future, or their own fantasies of the future, especially in the second one. So it's hard to tell if it's really happening or what they wish would happen or stuff like that. But overall, it's a very great movie. Great voice acting, emotions, storytelling, endings. The song is great, the movie is relatable. And after watching this movie, I was watching videos related to this movie and I saw the comments that they said about the ending that it was about moving on. That made it like a million times even more relatable. So it was also great to know. The main theme of the movie is not loss or regret, but it's about moving on. Something I personally really need to learn as well. So this one, 5 centimeters per second. This one is a 9.5 out of 10.